Welcome to Frequelize This. This is a show we like to call Why Is This the Album That Everybody Knows? And the idea is that everybody knows a particular popular album from an artist, and we're going to take a look at that album for just a second, but then see if we can maybe point you to other songs or albums from the same artist that you might really enjoy if the only thing you've ever been exposed to is the one popular one. So in this episode, we're going to talk about Genesis. And obviously, well, I think obviously that album is Invisible Touch. On our panel today, as we've got Dave. Dave is a Genesis fan as well. Actually, this is really cool because all three of us are pretty big Genesis fans. And we also have Rich with us today. Thank you for being here, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Let's roll. So just a really quick background on Invisible Touch is the 16th album from Genesis, if you can believe that. I know for some people that's the first one they ever heard, if you're kind of older like us. And it came out in the summer of 1986. And I found this quote in a book, I think it was in some liner notes for a box set, that says, there was a point midway through 1986 when there were no less than 7 Genesis or Genesis-related singles in the American Top 100. So it was a big deal. They blew up. They were playing stadiums when they were playing live. So let's dig in on these pop songs first. So in Invisible Touch, everybody knows that it's got that great little drum intro, that riff that it starts doing, the catchy chorus, the way that Phil's vocal delivery is, it's strong, it's forward, it's upfront, but not angry. And so it's just a really fun song. So I think one of the 80s, still in the 80s, example would be like Turn It On Again from Duke, which is 1980. I think that would be a fun one for people that like Invisible Touch. Going back even further, the first album where Phil Collins was the lead singer was in 1976. It was called A Trick of the Tail. And that has, I think, is kind of a fun, bouncy song. It's called Robbery, Assault, and Battery. That one's pretty fun. Let me do the other 2 pop songs, and then I'll see what Dave and Rich think. So Land of Confusion. Land of Confusion, I was thinking of just from the album prior, the self-titled Genesis album of 1983. There's a really fun song in there called Just a Job to Do. I found that one to be a little bit similar in the rhythmic drive to that one. When it comes to, so Land of Confusion is a little bit more dramatic, maybe if that's the word, in Phil's vocal delivery. And so it also made me think of Dance on a Volcano. Dance on a Volcano is the opening track to that first album where Phil is the lead singer from 1976. So this is the first time where Phil is really coming out and saying, I'm the singer, I'm up front, and here's what I've got to deliver. And I feel like that has the same energy kind of as he does on Land of Confusion. So that'd be a fun one for people to check out. Anything she does, any da-da-da-da-da, right? That one's just, it's pretty quick, really poppy. But I thought of things like No Reply at All, although the lyrics aren't upbeat or anything, but I think that's got kind of a catchy upbeat groove to it. A Trick of the Tail. I thought of A Trick of the Tail, the song, as it's kind of a bouncy, upbeat thing. Yeah, what do you guys think? I've got a few others here that I didn't mention just because of time. Maybe you guys will think of them.
You know what was interesting as I was thinking about this because a couple of the songs on Invisible Touch, you get like Throwing It All Away, which very mellow, kind of fun. I really enjoy the song, but you get Then and Tonight, Tonight, Tonight. Eh. For me, I'm just not super on that one, but you grab there's so here's my curiosity, John. Let me ask this question first, and then I'll dovetail back. When you're talking about all those additional like Genesis related, are you talking? Is that including kind of like you've got the Collins solo stuff, Peter
Yeah,
Gabriel side project stuff? You
I
end up with
think
Mike
so.
and the
That
Mechanics going on at
mhm.
around that time,
Yep.
and all of it heads, interestingly enough, it's all heading in what was kind of the early 80s pop prog kind of a direction, and very much this album straddles that, where there's a poppiness to it that's enough for a mainstream audience to jump into. But then if you look at songs like you're saying, like Land of Confusion, or Domino, and there's an extended structure to that is just spectacular. But throw in the album closer with the Brazilian. Um, wow, that's instrumentally, it's just phenomenal. And I think what you find is enough of their older proggy technicality that you can grab hold of it and say, okay, if I'm interested in kind of the nuance and the way in which they structure, and they have a real depth to the songs, even as some of them tend to the poppier side, you're going to be able to find your way back in and say, there's some depth to this group. These are solid, solid musicians.
Oh yeah,
Exactly.
and I think
Go
some
ahead.
of that musicianship is almost by accident. I mean, I know you mentioned "Turn It On Again," John. One of my favorite stories about that is Phil Collins wanted to write a straight up 4/4, pop song in 4/4 time. So they write "Turn It On Again," and I can't remember if it was Mike Rutherford or Tony Banks that said, "You do know that the song is 13/4," and they're like, "No, wait," and then they counted out. It's like, "Holy crap! I wrote a song thinking it was 4/4, wound up being 13/4 time signature." So that's the kind of skill that they had. Like, you can make this catchy poppy tune, but it has all this weird time signature, this weird prog time signature, which is
Yeah.
great.
Yeah, it is great. And I love what you said, Dave, about the part where, yeah, someone who comes to this album because they've heard the pop songs and they like the pop songs, um, it may not realize the the depth that
Right.
these guys have as musicians and songwriters. And but what you're saying is that it is here, though. It is here on Invisible Touch.
Oh,
This is not a
absolutely.
throwaway album. Yeah.
Mhm.
Well, let's talk about Tonight, Tonight, Tonight then, because you said meh. Um, so let's go there for a second. If you like Tonight, 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 or I guess I'd like to hear what Dave says about this, because I didn't think about this angle. But if you don't like Tonight, 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 I find Tonight, Tonight, Tonight to be the spiritual successor to Mama from the self-titled album that came out previous, which is I think, spiritual successor to Abacab, the song Abacab from the album Abacab of 1981, where all three of those songs keep a consistent rhythmic drive throughout. They all have sort of an atmospheric kind of foreboding, mysteriousness to them. Abacab, not so much. Um, and then they all have, or at least Abacab and Tonight, 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 definitely have that bit in the, not in the middle, but in the second half where they sort of break things down. Um, and the keyboard, the guitar player doesn't really do a whole lot, and the keyboard doesn't necessarily do a solo. It just kind of do this breakdown. You remember what I'm talking about?
Yeah. Well,
Tonight, Tonight, Tonight. It's that part where it's all do 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 do. Just does that for a while.
well, here's
Um,
the fun part, though. I wonder how many people that are familiar with Invisible Touch just on the songs, the hits, if you will, realize that that part is even in there, because the classic adult contemporary radio stations where they play that, they chop that part out.
They do. There's
Which I think is the stronger parts of the song are what don't end up in kind of the radio edit version.
Yeah, I would
Okay.
agree with that.
Yeah, I really like Tonight, Tonight, Tonight and Abacab from the perspective of sitting in a space for a while, sitting in a certain vibe for a while. That's
Okay.
that's what I really liked about Tonight, Tonight, Tonight was the vibe that it does, which is, I think, exactly why it was used for a nighttime cityscape beer commercial,
Yep,
right?
absolutely.
It has that. You could put this song on when you're driving at night, and have a good time. And I think anybody who enjoys this should go back to Mama. They should go back to Abacab. They should try Squonk, which is that's a silly name, but that also is a rhythmic and atmospheric. Boy, that song has so much air in the production. Go back to that song and listen to the drums, where the dynamics. Oh man, if someone was to produce that the way they make stuff now, it would just sound terrible. So Squonk is worth checking out just for that. Just feel the room, feel the atmosphere. It's pretty cool.
Well, the one thing about that atmosphere thing is, like, I was just thinking about, Genesis discography, and they have a lot of songs that build that kind of atmospheric chunk, that kind of build this mood through this instrumental break. One that you mentioned off, another album, another song off Trick of the Tail, which is Squonk is on, is Ripples. Ripples has that
Oh yeah.
4 minute section where it's just atmosphere, and Hackett is doing some, just atmospheric stuff with the guitar, and Banks's keyboard is very sparse as well. Another one off of, and then there are three, is Burning Rope. That whole instrumental section is just a build up. It's just really kind of like builds up slow. It gets intense.
Yeah.
And then there's passages off Lamb Lies Down on Broadway that has kind of that instrumental building that atmosphere of, there's Hairless Heart, which is the instrumental in between Back in NYC and Canada Out of Time, really kind of builds that atmosphere. Or Silent Sorrow and Empty Boats off the last song off side 3.
Right.
And it's just that one repeating motif. And it's just this calming atmosphere that kind of like permeates out of that. So even in the section of Supper's Ready, before it goes into Willow Farm, their big 23-minute epic off of Foxtrot, that really sets kind of a calming atmosphere.
Yeah.
Until the next song takes off, or the next section of the song takes off.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's cover the ballads really quick. That's where I threw Throwing It All Away into, and then into Deep. If people who like Into Deep, I think they really should go check out one of Phil's early lead vocals before he was the lead vocalist. So if you go back to a 1973 album called Selling England by the Pound, there's a track on there called More Fool Me, where Phil has the lead vocal. Slow, ballad, and even a little bit lyrically similar in that it's not, it's on the sadder side of what happens in relationships. I like More Fool Me in the same kind of tone, maybe, I guess, as Into Deep. I also thought of Please Don't Ask from 1980's Duke. Taking It All Too Hard from the 1983 Genesis album. Throwing It All Away. One of the things I do like about Throwing It All Away is the sort of singableness of the whoa-ohs and the zirade. Like when they do that live, right, it turns into an 8-minute thing where Phil gets the crowd going on that zirade, right? So one of the songs I thought of in that regard, where it's it's a good sing-along that I don't think anybody knows about other than some diehard Genesis fans, is a song called Snowbound from And Then There Were Three. This lush, beautiful chorus where he's singing, "Hey, there's a snowman," and it's huge, right? Oh man, again, I get goosebumps on it. So yeah, anybody that digs Throwing It All Away, go check out Snowbound. What do you guys think on these ballads?
Yeah, I mean, if you want to talk like ballads to check out, I mean, and this one's I'm going to flip it a little bit because it's actually a happy ballad. You got to go with Afterglow off of Wind and Withering.
Yeah,
Oh, yes.
That's a beautiful ballad. Banks, wrote that. It's just so lush and layered, and um, Collins' vocals on that is just great, and the live version on Seconds Out is fantastic because the drums are just the drums even like pulsate with even more emotion.
yeah. Wind and Wuthering is such a strange album because there's only 3 different types of songs on there. There's really proggy stuff, like, I mean, All in a Mouse's Night, like it's a story about a mouse and his family or something.
It's two stories. It's 3 stories really. It's the couple that's trying to capture the mouse.
Yeah.
It's the mouse like fearing for his life, and it's the cat at the end bragging about how he killed the mouse.
So it's like that Rashomon or whatever, different perspective, same story, right? Something like that. So
Faulkner wrote it.
Yeah. So you have those, and there's more than one of them. Or the second type are ballads. There's 3 slow like ballads on that album. So the one you mentioned, Rich, Afterglow, Mike Rutherford's Your Own Special Way, and Blood on the Rooftops. And they're all really good. They're all miles better than In Too Deep or Throwing It All Away.
Yeah.
And then the third kind of song you have on that album is an instrumental. There's like 3. The way the tracks are sequenced, there's 3 instrumentals, right?
Yeah. It's like one of them, Wakarilla, that's like total jazz fusion.
Yeah.
So it's kind of just really showing off, like, Phil's chops, what he was doing at the time with his Brand X side project.
Right.
Yeah.
I think very quietly, Wind and Wuthering it has become my favorite Genesis album.
Wow.
I mean, it really, it's one that if I throw on, and first of all, it was one of the early ones that I had on vinyl, so that helps this a little bit. But you throw it on, and it's a full stop kind of an album where you're just, I do a lot of listening where it's, I'm doing 12 other things or something like that. Wind and Wuthering just seems to be one of those albums where it's, no, I'm going to stop. It's going to be much more immersive.
Yeah. Wow, that's cool. So let's move on to, so we got 2 left here. Let's talk about Domino. So Domino is Invisible Touch's example of what Genesis used to do. Maybe it's two parts or 2 songs, if you will, scrunched together, so we get 10 minutes.
Hold on,
And it's about 4.5 minutes of kind of a chill, almost a ballad-esque kind of a thing, and then goes into the driving part that's got solos in it, got Phil much more animated in his vocal delivery. So obviously the next most recent album being the 1983 self-titled, the analog to that then would be Home by the Sea, Second Home by the Sea, which I think is another excellent example, but it's going to be very similar. I guarantee you, if you like Domino, you're going to like Home by the Sea, Second Home by the Sea. But to stretch yourself a little bit, I would say go back to Wind and Wuthering, late 1976 album, second album with Phil on vocals, One for the Vine, very similar structure. to Domino, where there's a kind of a almost pastoral thing going on for 4.5 minutes, and then it just goes nuts, in a good way. So and going even earlier, you can go all the way back to 1971. And I had to find a way to mention this one, because Invisible Touch is the album where I really became aware of Genesis and like introduced to Genesis. Somebody played Invisible Touch with me and said, pay attention to this band. Okay, well, the next song that someone played for me where they said to me, hey, Genesis is more than just Invisible Touch and that's all, was The Musical Box from Nursery Crime, 1971. Similar structure to Domino in that you've got 3.5 minutes of a slower, almost ballad-esque feel to it. And then, man, at 3:39, it starts to build up. And I was blown away at 4 minutes and 8 seconds when Steve Hackett's guitar goes, just shreds your speakers to pieces. And then he's just ripping up for like, I don't know, 3 minutes or something. It's insane. So yeah, if you like Domino and you want to stretch yourself, go check out The Musical Box from 1971. It's old. It'll sound old. It's Peter Gabriel on vocals, not Phil, but it's a treat. I think it's fun.
Well, there's the one song that is tricky because it's not on an album. It's on an EP that they put out in 76, 77, the Pigeons EP. And help me out with the title, John, because I'm completely drawing a blank on it.
Inside and Out.
Inside and Out, yeah. Where it's, again, the story, it's a story song. It's a very ballad, a really depressing ballad about a guy that's like, just released from jail. But then halfway through, it picks up, and then Tony Banks just goes absolutely bonkers on the keyboard.
Yeah.
And
Bonkers,
it's just
in a good way.
Incredible song.
I love when he tears into the keyboard on that. I love that.
It's great.
Well, the last thing we have is the Brazilian. So the Brazilian closes the album and is just a cool instrumental jam, if you will, featuring different elements of the musicianship of the players in Genesis. The obvious one, right, because it's an album closer, is Los Endos. Yeah. So you got to go back to 1976's Trick of the Tail and check out a song called Los Endos. Such a great jam, similar to the Brazilian. Dave, Rich, you mentioned earlier What Gorilla. That's a fun one that stands a standalone instrumental. And I know Dave probably loves In That Quiet Earth, which is also from Wind and Wuthering.
Yeah.
I wanted to mention 2 other songs though, because to me, so they don't fit the mold of the Brazilian where they are 4-minute instrumental jams. They're long songs, but where in the song is a 4-minute instrumental jam. And they're 2 of my favorite ones that Genesis has ever done. And that is The Cinema Show from Sailing England by the Pound. It's and if you're looking for the instrumental jam, I'm just going to tell you, go straight to 5 minutes and 54 seconds. It's got 5 minutes and 54 seconds of kind of a lovely pastoral ballad kind of thing.
And again, building that atmosphere, because there's that section where it's just atmospheric for like 45 seconds.
That's true. Yep, yeah. Absolutely right. Yeah. But then it turns into just a great keyboard-driven jam with really cool things that Phil is doing on the drums. And then the other one, again, is buried within a song. It's actually from the next album. It's from We Can't Dance, and it's called Fading Lights. It is the last song on the album. So I I feel like this has gotten overlooked by a lot of people, except for the fact that this is interesting. Genesis plays this song live a lot, the full 12 minutes. So the part you're looking for there is go to 3 minutes and 43 seconds. So because we're talking about the Brazilian, I'll point you to that. Go to 3 minutes and 43 seconds on Fading Lights, and it'll be about 4 minutes long, and it is great.
Well, there's a section that comes to mind, and I'm just thinking of the beautiful thing about the Brazilian is the drumming doesn't sound like straight drumming. It sounds like he's doing some electric drum stuff, and there's just some interesting percussion noises out of that.
Mm-hmm.
And so the way my brain immediately goes to the instrumental breakdown in One for the Vine, and we keep bringing that song. We keep bringing that album up a whole lot. But
Yeah.
Right in the middle of this, there's an instrumental breakdown where there's like kind of like a percussion fill where it's 4 different sounds, and that's overlaying like a classic drum beat, and then that establishes the thing, and then Phil drops in a freaking disco beat.
Yeah.
Which is awesome.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's right at the time where everybody was like throwing a disco beat in their song, but it's like, this is right in the middle of this 9-minute prog rock song. It's so weird.
I love that he did that right there.
Yeah.
It just makes the song fun. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is a fun song. Album closer, 1980.
Yeah. Duke's Travels, Duke's End.
Yeah, Duke's Travels and Duke's End.
Yes. Okay.
I mean, between those two, it's all instrumental except for a little vocal coda that Phil does, right, of the guide vocal.
Yep. Which,
but other than that, isn't
to
it
the early part of the album.
Yeah, isn't the Duke's Travels and Duke's End together like 10 minutes?
10 minutes, yeah.
Of just
and again,
cool instrumental.
It starts off with building that atmosphere.
Yeah.
Because you hear this almost like the Duke is coming home, or he's going, some like, it makes me think of like this, Indian Raja or something, like coming home and with throngs of adoring people crowding around him as he comes riding majestic in an elephant or something like that. Like, it would be kind of cool as like as an Indian wedding almost. You almost pictured that kind of thing, because the big crashing cymbals, the bombastic crashing cymbals, and the keyboard that sounds like horns, and then and then it just goes on from there.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, there you go. Let's wrap it up. There you go. There are some great things in Genesis's catalog for people who love Invisible Touch. If you love Invisible Touch, you love the pop side of Genesis, you love the pop side of Phil Collins' solo stuff, Mike and the Mechanics, Peter Gabriel's album. So, and you've always thought, I don't think I want to go check out that stodgy prog stuff they were doing in the 70s. Well, hopefully we gave you some ideas of some songs that you can go check out without having to commit yourself to a whole epic, weird prog album from the 70s. But go check out some of these songs that we mentioned, if that line up with the songs that you like from Invisible Touch. Hope you have a great time with it. So I'm John, that's Dave, that's Rich, and we are Frequelize This. We're out. Good night.